right, welcome to the Young Turks. I'm your host, Jake Uger. We got a great show ahead for you guys. Came down all of a sudden there. All right, we got a lot of talk of corruption today. In the next segment, I'm going to talk to you about Nick Mulvaney and what he's doing to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. They are dismantling it in an unbelievable way, out of control, and they're just basically declaring they're for the banks. But the details of that story are maddening. And then we're going to turn to a funnier story of corruption, and that is about these so-called prosperity preachers. It's preaching the prosperity gospel. Now, is that for you? Are you going to get prosperity? Oh, no. Prosperity is for them. So the way that they are asking for jets and receiving them is ungodly. Okay, so that's in the next segment, and that is both dispiriting, if you will, but also hilarious. So don't miss that. And a little bit later in the program, speaking of dispiriting, Donald Trump's racism towards Haitians has now taken a more action-oriented turn. So it's not just calling them derogatory terms anymore. They are beginning to discriminate against them. So we will tell you how, okay? Now, but before in this segment, I'm going to do nothing but make fun of Trump. Now, having said that, let me keep it real and make fun of myself first. So we have these shirts that one of you guys asked for, and then we immediately did them, and I was wearing them today. Very stable genius, right? Okay, boom, shoptyt.com. So, but why do I show it to you? So there was a string coming out of the shirt this morning, and so I decided that I was gonna cut it. So I got a scissors, I cut it, and what did I do? I cut the shirt instead. I don't know if you can see it. I'm like, oh, I got this one. Ah, sick it, right? Okay, you know why? Because I'm a very stable genius. And I just looked at the shirt and was like, fitting. I have two great qualities. One is that I do not cut my shirts unnecessarily. And the other is that I am a very stable genius. All right, anyways, let's do the show over here, okay? So Donald Trump, of course, in a world of trouble on this Russian investigation. He has to deal with the special counsel. The special counsel, Robert Mueller, would like to talk to him. Trump's lawyers are desperately trying to prevent that. Why? Because they are aware that their client is an idiot. One of those lawyers is the curiously named Ty Cobb. And he thinks, okay, please, Mr. President, do not go testify. It's a trap. So why? If you got nothing to hide, no reason for it to be a trap. You go and say, well, no, the Russians, they got nothing to do with them, right? Anyway, but I wanted to read you his quote because I found it amusing. Ty Cobb, Trump's lawyer, says, I would hope that a fair-minded office of the special counsel would approach it in a dutiful way consistent with precedent, and it wouldn't be a mere perjury trap. Why is he worried about a perjury trap? Because he's been sitting with Donald Trump all these days. He's like, there's no way he's not gonna lie. There's no way he's not gonna lie. So even his best friends say he's a pathological liar. You see it every single day, the flip-flops from one line to another. So his lawyer, he's like, but the thing is, you're thinking, well, this is obvious. Why would he go testify, right? And Mueller's incredibly smart. He's got these team of investigators who are really experienced. Why would Trump go into that? Because remember, Trump thinks he's like a really smart person. He thinks he's a very stable genius. Look at me, I'm very stable genius. Anyway, shoptyt.com to get that shirt. Anyway, so Trump's like, I got this. I'm gonna go speak to Mueller. I'm gonna show him how smart I am, okay? And I'm gonna testify bigly. And his lawyers are like, no, don't do that. Whether they think he did it or not, they're pretty sure that if he goes and talks on the record, he ain't gonna lie, then he's gonna be up on perjury charges. I hope, hey, you know what? If Donald Trump, if you're listening, I know this is not on Fox and Friends, so it's not likely. But if you're listening, are your lawyers telling you you're dumb? Are they saying that Robert Mueller is smarter than you? I mean, that is ridiculous, right? Because if there's two things I know about you, one is that you are very stable and have always been mentally stable, and two is that you are like a really smart person. Show Ty Cobb how much smarter you are than Robert Mueller. No, the trap's not for you, the trap's for Mueller. Go get him, big guy. Okay, moving on. How many times am I going to go to that shirt today? All right. John Kelly is the chief of staff for Donald Trump. He's a former general, and so he was brought in to bring some degree of order to the White House, and he did. And he's been widely praised for that. Now they're in the middle of these budget negotiations. If they don't have a budget by the end of Friday, the government's going to shut down. He's trying to avoid that. There's a couple of different factors that are involved here. CHIP, which is children's health insurance, is on the table. DACA, the DREAM Act for the undocumented immigrants who are children who were brought here when they were younger, is on the table for discussion. And then finally, of course, the wall. Now, the problem is Trump wants the wall, but it doesn't make any sense. You can't do a wall over the mountains, the rivers, but he never understood that. So he kept saying, we're gonna do a big, beautiful wall across the whole border. And can he get Mexico to pay for it? Of course not, that's preposterous. He never understood any of those things, and it's incredibly expensive, and he never understood that. So they're trying to talk some sense into him, and John Kelly's gonna talk about that. Now, everything he says here is relatively true, except that that's gonna get under Donald Trump's skin. So let's watch first.
The Washington Post has a story. It says Kelly calls some of Trump's campaign pledges on immigration wall uninformed, meeting attendees say. White House Chief of Staff John Kelly told Democratic lawmakers Wednesday the United States will never construct a physical wall along the entire stretch of the U.S.-Mexico border.
I told him that, there's been an evolutionary process that this president has gone through as a campaign, and I pointed out to all of the members that were in the room that they all say things during the course of campaigns that may or may not be fully informed. So he has evolved in the way he's looked at things. Campaign to governing are two different things, and this president is very, very, very flexible in terms of what is within the realm of the possible.
So a couple of things there. First, just a side note. I like how he's like, look, you guys are all politicians. You know you lie during the campaign. And like, oh, that's true, that's true. So I like that that's just taken as a given. That's how Washington is. Okay, now on to Trump. He says his position has evolved. You know what evolved means in the political world. It means, yeah, he was lying before and now he's changed it to this. But with Trump, there's an extra layer. He's a dumbass. So before he thought he really could get a wall across the mountains, and now he realized, oh yeah, well, I guess that's dumb, isn't it? So Kelly says some of his positions were uninformed. Okay, now all that is of course true, of course, and everybody in the room knows it, all the senators know it, but the only person who doesn't know it is Donald Trump. So one of the White House officials calls Axios after seeing that on Fox going, this is not gonna go well. Man, this is gonna get under Trump's skin. Because they said this is John Kelly trying to be like Bannon, like, hey, I'm actually trying to direct the president to the right thing, otherwise he's a knucklehead. Which of course is enormously true. It's the truest thing that's ever been said. But Trump doesn't like to hear that. And lo and behold, Trump watches it on Fox and then starts fuming. So that source was exactly right. And then Trump can't help himself, so he tweets out, the wall is the wall. It has never changed or evolved from the first day I conceived of it. And I love this segment. Parts will be of necessity see-through, we'll come back to that, and it was never intended to be built in areas where there's natural protection, such as mountains, wastelands, or tough rivers or water. No, you said it was going to be on the entire border. Now, all of a sudden, it appears your position has evolved, and you're like, oh, there's mountains of water there. Rio Grande, what's that? Okay, yeah, knucklehead, that's why we said you couldn't build a wall across the whole border. That was the whole point. So, okay, certainly part of the point. Now, the other part is, wait, what does it mean? What do you mean see-through? You're gonna build a wall made of glass so you can see through it? No. You're gonna make cement wall that you can see through? No. Oh, he means a fence. What happened? I thought it was gonna be a wall. You know who else promised a fence in parts of the border? Hillary Clinton. That was her exact campaign pledge. She said, there's rivers and mountains where we don't need a wall or a fence, and in all the other areas, I'm gonna build a fence. Congratulations, Donald Trump. You now have Hillary Clinton's position. See-through. See-through. That ain't no wall. That ain't no wall. Your position has evolved. You were completely uninformed. Kelly's right about that. So look, if it turns out at the end of the day, they waste a lot of money building like a nice wall that then they shoot video of and air on Fox 24/7, and the rest they build a fence, which is cheaper. Okay, then I'm glad his position has evolved, and if that's the compromise, maybe I could live with it. But he ain't building no wall across the border, and if you really believe that, you're an idiot, and now this clearly proves it. Otherwise, tell me now. Did you think that Trump was going to build a see-through wall the whole time? Did you know it was a fence the whole time and not a wall? And so when he builds that fence, you're going to be okay with it? Look, that's for you conservatives to decide. But reality has a way of catching up with you, even if you're Donald Trump. They're not building a wall across the whole border. Okay. So, by the way, TikTok on John Kelly. So he thinks he's smarter than me when he doesn't realize I'm like a smart person. Why can't I get this shirt right? I'm a very stable genius. ShopTYT.com. Okay. All right. Now we go on to Chip. Now these next two stories are amusing, but this one is amusing and unfortunately has a downside, which is that the policy is in a little bit of jeopardy, okay? Okay, so here we go. Republicans and Democrats are in sensitive negotiations over the budget showdown, and they're trying to make a deal here. They've got the wall, they've got the DREAM Act, and they've got CHIP as some of the bargaining chips here. CHIP is health insurance for young children. Now, Democrats have wanted it for a long, long time. It's been around for a long time, but in September, the Republicans blocked the funding on it, so they're now holding it hostage. So Democrats are saying, damn it, and this is what Republicans do. They take hostages that didn't exist before. Then they go, now you have to approve our draconian, terrible budget that you hate because we took the CHIP hostage and the DREAM Act. So now you're gonna give me the budget and the wall to do that trade. But wait, Trump said he'd do the DREAM Act alone. Nah, just kidding, we're not gonna do that. We just want more and more and more from you guys. Okay, but these negotiations are hard, and they're made harder by the fact that Trump is president, and he doesn't know what he's talking about. That's why he keeps flip-flopping on the DREAM Act, says in a private meeting, oh yeah, that'll pass, no problem. You should pass it clean, don't attach it to the budget. Then the next day he turns around and goes, oh my God, you gotta attach it to the budget and I hate all those poor countries' base. Are you happy with me? Are you happy with me? So overall, the Republicans think it's a mess, literally. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell openly admitted Wednesday that he has no idea what President Trump wants. And so that's part of the problem. He's like, look, here's what I want, here's what the Democrats want, but Trump keeps throwing in these insane tweets and demands every once in a while, and we have no idea what he wants. Okay, Senator James Inhofe, deeply conservative senator out of Oklahoma says, quote, it's a mess. So now, but they've got CHIP and they're gonna use that as, no pun intended, a bargaining chip, okay? So here, Talking Points memo explains, amid this chaos, Republicans thought that attaching a 6-year reauthorization of CHIP to the short-term continuing resolution was a win-win. Democrats who had railed for months that the GOP-controlled Congress had failed to fund the program would have a tough time voting against it despite their opposition to other aspects of the package. And if it went down in flames, Republicans could cast the blame on Congress's minority party. So, like I told you, they need to get this budget passed. That's coming up right now. And they blocked funding for children's health insurance. And now they're saying, well, Democrats, you really, really want that. So if you want that, I'm gonna put it in as part of this bill. And if you vote against it, then I'm gonna say, oh, you're against the children. You're against the children. I'm gonna show you a video about that in a second. But to give you a sense of exactly where they're going with this, Representative Kathy McMorris Rogers said, stop the obstruction to Democrats, stop the games. There's no good reason to punish children. Not only are they voting to shut down the government, they're voting to deny children access to critical health care when they need it. Seems like she cares about the children, that's why she wants to pass this. Let's just note for the record here, as TPM does, Republicans control both chambers of Congress and could have passed the CHIP reauthorization at any time last year. In fact, they could pass it right this minute. They could just go, hey, we have the majorities. Oh, you guys want to take care of the children? Well, that's easy. And the Democrats are in favor of it anyway. This will be nearly unanimous. Let's call a vote. Boom, chip passes. We're done with it. Oh, but you don't care about the children. You want to play political games and hold those children hostage, their health care, their lives hostage, so that you can get your budget approved with all the lard and the pork in there for defense contractors and all of your crony capitalism that you loaded that budget up with, right? So in fact, let me show you a clip that J.R. Jackson, our legendary senior producer, put together of different Republicans pretending to care about the children. Keep in mind, they could pass it at any time if they want to. So all of this is ridiculous political gamesmanship. Watch.
We're also continuing discussions on government funding, a 6-year reauthorization of CHIP. These are really our most basic and fundamental responsibilities that we have serving in the House. And I call upon the Democrats to stop the obstruction, stop the games, and join us in getting it done.
I simply ask, how can you do this? How can you not give money to the most vulnerable, the most poorest, and the most sickest of our American society? Unfortunately, the answer is we see that the Democrats would rather support illegal aliens as opposed to our American children that need that money.
The Children's Health Insurance Program, CHIP. 2 times we have voted to move that off this floor. But both items, the Democrats have not only said no, they whipped their members to hold them back. We have states that are being challenged for their children's health. This is not a time to play politics.
I used to think that the Democrats thought the S-chip bill was bipartisan, that children's health insurance is a bipartisan bill. This was written by Republicans and Democrats. We've passed this extension twice this year. We're going to be bringing it to the floor again this week because real deadlines are occurring this Friday. And the real deadlines that occur this Friday are our men and women in uniform and children's health insurance in many states that will run out of money. And so that is why it's unconscionable to me that they would block funding for our military or cut off funding for these states that really will lose their funding for CHIP by playing these political games.
Oh, they're the worst. Oh, politicians are so scummy. He says, oh, it's going to run out of money. But it had all the money that it needed until you blocked the funding in September. And it was, oh my God, these Democrats, they don't want to pass it. Do a clean bill, they'll pass it tomorrow, they'll pass it this second. But they attach it to the things that they want that the Democrats don't agree with. Their draconian budget that cuts money for the poor and the middle class and gives it to the rich. And then they're like, oh, what about the children? I can't believe the Democrats are playing political games. Now, unfortunately, we have a media that, despite the fact that they attack Trump all the time because he's not part of the establishment, still largely don't do their jobs. So they take that stuff at face value. I mean, at that press conference, there should be people like Jim Acosta yelling at the White House. Go yell at those guys. Those guys have been lying to us for 40 straight years, Republicans and Democrats. So why aren't you out there going, wait a minute, you could pass CHIP right now. Why don't you just put it up for a vote right now? Why don't you do it? Why don't you do it? But then the reporters are, oh, okay, he said, she said, as long as they're part of the Republican Party or the Democratic Party, I'm not gonna say anything. Anyway, that is greatly frustrating to me, as you can tell. And that's what's great about the internet. Now we get to call them on their BS. They used to get away with that stuff all the time. But here's where the story takes a funny turn. So the Republicans have this plan and the Democrats are paid to lose. So they're supposed to go, oh golly gee, you took a hostage back in September. Okay, then you get the DREAM Act, it's 70% popularity. Okay, because of those 2 hostages, I'll give you the wall and I'll give you your crappy budget, right? So they're in the middle of executing that, which I've seen happen my whole life. That's how this game is played. Except Trump's an idiot and he doesn't know that the game is played that way. So they're using it for a short-term extension, right, of the budget. But Trump didn't get the memo. So he tweets out, CHIP should be part of a long-term solution, not a 30-day or short-term extension. At which point the Republicans go, no, why did you tweet that? No, the whole point was to trick them into voting for our short-term extension of the budget by including CHIP in there, you idiot. And look, I like that he blew up their plan totally accidentally, and I guarantee you he flip-flops on this once somebody walks in the office and goes, hey, moron, sit down. Let me explain to you how this works, right? Now, Am I making this stuff up, or are Republicans actually frustrated? Did Trump actually blow it? Well, let's go to the Republicans and find out. Here is Lindsey Graham. We don't have a reliable partner at the White House to negotiate with. Okay, here's Mitch McConnell.
Looking for something that President Trump supports, and he's not yet indicated what measure he's willing to sign. As soon as we figure out what he is for, then I would be convinced that we were not just spinning our wheels.
As soon as we figure out what this moron thinks he's doing, I don't know what he's for. That's Mitch McConnell, the leader of the Republicans in the Senate, throwing up his hands going, do you know what Trump wants? I don't know what Trump wants. Trump doesn't know what he wants. You're dealing with an absolute child here. Finally, one more for you guys. Senator John Cornyn, number 2 in the pecking order in the Senate for the Republicans, says, when asked, hey, what did he mean by that tweet? This is totally against what your proposals have been for this entire time. He says, quote, I'm not sure what the president means. Yep, he's as dumb as you think he is. And all the Republicans are like, Jesus Christ, back to the drawing board. Now what are we gonna do? Look, I guarantee you this, that if Trump actually genuinely wants to protect the children and doesn't want it to be part of this negotiations, I'll come back on here and give him all the credit in the world, okay? But that's not what's happening. What's happening is, as usual, the buffoon has no idea what the policy is, no idea what kind of negotiations were going on. Remember, this is the guy who claimed to be the master of the deal, the art of the deal, which he of course didn't write. Anyway, so that now looks like they're in trouble, and I hope it does get blown up because that's a crappy deal. Okay, now we go to Pennsylvania. Already this story is awesome based on graphics alone. All right, so Pennsylvania 18 has a special election coming up because Tim Murphy apparently had a mistress who he then asked to get an abortion when he pretends to be pro-life. Very, very standard Republican story. Oh yes, nobody should get an abortion. But I was having sex with a mistress and I'm family values. And of course I had to get an abortion, right? So whoever wants to stay. Who I want run. Tim Murphy's gone. So they're doing a special election. Now it's a heavily Republican district, very pro-Trump. So they'd like Trump to go there and campaign because now the Republicans are in a little bit of a panic. They've lost 34 special elections, including in a rural, deeply red district in Wisconsin a couple of days ago. So The Hill explains that Trump will visit coincides with a concerted national effort in the district. So Trump's gonna go, and this is all part of their effort to make sure that they win that seat. They explain further, national groups have spent more than $1 million peppering the airwaves with advertising, with more spending on building out a ground game for Saccone. Saccone is the guy running in the race for the Republicans, Rick Saccone, okay? So he's a state rep right now, and they're obviously trying to make him a United States representative. So this is all in an effort to help Saccone. Now, the problem is that if you're the president, you're not supposed to go give campaign speeches. Then the Republicans need to pay for it, and they don't want to pay for it. Those are really expensive when the president travels. You're supposed to be pretending to be on official business, okay? And then, oh, golly gee, my official business happened to be where you're about to have this election. But look, I saw a tank. It's official business, right? So now let me give you more details on it, and then I'll get to Trump's tweet, which you're gonna love. Trump is scheduled to give a speech at a local manufacturing plant, not to hold a campaign event for GOP state Senator Rick Saccone, who is running for the March 13th special election and is expected to be in the audience. So that's the official line that they're giving to the press. And so far so good, it's working out fine. And The Hill also explains the White House has repeatedly sought to frame the trip as an official stop, not a campaign event, okay? So what does Donald Trump do? He tweets this. We'll be going to Pennsylvania today in order to give my total support for Rick Saccone running for Congress in a special election. Rick is a great guy. We need more Republicans to continue our already successful agenda. You schmuck, you just admitted you're going for campaign reasons, not for official reasons. Oh, I didn't know that. I don't do any homework. All I do is play golf and watch Fox and Friends. I wish I hadn't tweeted that. That's going to cost us a lot of money. When Sarah Huckabee Sanders is asked about it, she says, while the president has made clear his support for Republican candidates throughout the country, including in Pennsylvania, the purpose of today's visit is to promote the president's successful agenda, especially on taxes. It's about policy. It's about policy. I mean, yeah. You're embarrassing yourself. Please stop. Could that tweet have been any clearer? I'm going for, he capitalized, show it again. He capitalized Rick Saccone. In case you were unclear, he was going to campaign for Rick Saccone. We'll be going to Pennsylvania today, not to do policy or to promote my taxes, in order to give my total support for Rick Saccone, running for Congress. Remember, this is about campaigns. I don't know if you know this, Trump is like a really smart person. Okay, I gotta take a break, guys. When we come back, who does more terrorism in America? Well, we have the official numbers. Probably the rest of the media would be shocked to find out. So only Washington and New York would. You guys aren't gonna be surprised. Right-wing extremists or Muslim extremists, but over a stretch of years, I've got a lot of numbers for you guys. And then what they're doing to Trump administration doing to help the banks is just ungodly. And speaking of ungodly, the prosperity preachers. You're gonna love that story. By the way, as we go to break here, if you miss any part of the show, become a member. You can podcast it anytime you want. Fast forward, rewind if you like. tytnetwork.com/join. Go. right, Skepticus Rex writes, and we're back, by the way, on the Turks. Quick, someone trick him into tweeting an endorsement of single payer. You never know, man. You never know. It doesn't matter. Then later, in order to make up for his idiocy, he'll double down in the opposite direction. Be like, oh yeah, no one should have health care. No one at all in the country should have health care. Based, how did I do? How did I do? Did I do well? Okay. Art Murray asks a logical question. Has there ever been a barrier that humans properly motivated did not get past? Correct answer, no. Mike with a simpler tweet, Paul Ryan is the asshat of asshats. Fair enough. And then finally, 96% Jesus writes in, so my mother just complimented Cenk's nails and said, clean hands are attractive. I don't know how to feel. Well, I'm right there with you, brother. I don't know how to feel about that either. That is curious, but bless your mother's heart. And by the way, my nails are not particularly clean. Once somebody said, had me meet them for an interview where I was getting interviewed for a job and said, well, it's okay, I'm getting a pedicure anyway. If you want, you come get a pedicure or manicure too. I was like, no. I'm not against pedicures or manicures, never had one in my life though. Anyways, over here. All right, first serious story, and then we'll get back to fun at the end. Two serious stories and then a fun story. Okay. So I understand that there is Islamic extremism in this country, as there is throughout the world, and sometimes it leads to acts of terror. Like if you remember in New York, there was a guy who ran over 8 people and killed them near the end of last year, and that was terrible. And the authorities have actually done some decent job in blocking some Islamic extremism. But there's also right-wing extremism, and with the exception of Charlottesville, is not talked about very much in the media. So I wish somebody would do a poll on this. If you ask Americans, what do you think is the bigger threat, Islamic terrorism or right-wing terrorism in America? I would be surprised if the answer was an 80 to 90% Islamic terrorism, and that is of course wrong. So I say of course because the Anti-Defamation League has done a study on it, and I wanted to share that with you and then give you some other numbers as well. So they explained that white supremacists in the United States killed more than twice as many people in 2017 as they did the year before. So they seem, I don't know if the right word is encouraged, but certainly more active these days. I wonder why. And were responsible for far more murders than domestic Islamic extremists, helping make 2017 the 5th deadliest year on record for extremist violence in America, a new report states. Now, this is the Anti-Defamation League. They got no interest in any of this extremism. They want none of it, and they're certainly not trying to cover up Islamic extremism, which they are very concerned about. But they looked at the numbers, and this is what the numbers say. And they did not count mass shooters. They didn't count random shootings. No, they were only talking about shootings where there is a stated political purpose, and so those are the only ones that count. So these are only the ones where they said, I'm a right winger, I'm doing it for this reason, that reason, political reason, and hence the word extremism or terrorism. So the report called Murder and Extremism in the United States in 2017, published Tuesday by the Anti-Defamation League Center on Extremism, said extremists killed 34 people last year. 20 of those victims, or 59%, were killed by right-wing extremists, a designation that includes white supremacists, members of the so-called alt-right and alt-light, and members of the anti-government militia movement. Now, if you're thinking, well, but I didn't see all that. I saw the big news about the guy in New York, but I didn't see a lot of those killings. That's not because they didn't happen, it's because they don't get a lot of coverage. So, and this is what the ADL is pointing out. In fact, it's not just this past year. If you look at the numbers for a period of years here between, let's see here, what are these numbers here? I'm gonna find it. Having trouble. Past 10 years, okay. Now, if you look at these numbers over the past 10 years, it shows you that the numbers are actually even starker when you look at a broader time frame. 71% of terrorist attacks by extremists have been by right-wing extremists. So now look, the numbers are not good for Islamic extremism either because they are disproportionate to the population in America. So they are both deeply troubling. But do we overcover one and undercover the other? Yes. And more importantly, what is our government doing? Now, I'll get to that in a second in terms of the Trump administration, but I wanted to show you that there are some people that are upset about this. So when the Secretary of Homeland Security was testifying in front of the Senate, Senator Booker from New Jersey had this to say.
I know you're aware of a 2017 GAO report that found, and I quote, out of the 85 violent extremist incidences that resulted in deaths in September 12, 2001, far right-wing violent extremist groups were responsible for 73%. When I go through the Black Belt in the South, when I'm in Atlanta, Black churches in Newark, they're concerned about jihadist Islamic terrorism. We watched the Twin Towers from Newark go down. But since 9/11, 85 violent incidents, 73% were with people that hold bigoted, hateful ideas about minorities.
So similar numbers there from two different groups. Cory Booker quoting the 73% number, which is very similar to the number that the Anti-Defamation League came up with over the last 10 years, was 71% by right-wing extremists. So, for example, there was a guy who came out of Maryland and decided he needed to kill black people because he was reading the neo-Nazi website Daily Stormer, went to New York and killed a poor African-American man with a sword. Racism on college campuses, the right wing likes to downplay that. They say, oh, really, when has it ever happened? Well, you didn't hear it because CNN didn't blare it from the rooftops when they do in other instances. And someone should ask them why they are so selective in this coverage. So in reality, in Maryland, there was on a college campus there, a guy, again, a right-wing extremist, but on college, goes up to a black student and murders him. And he did it because he's a white supremacist. That got almost no coverage. So it happens over and over and over again. Kamala Harris, another senator, pointing out in a tweet, it is deeply troubling that when talking about threats to our nation, Secretary Nielsen failed to mention a report that talks about some of the most rampant terror attacks that face our nation, domestic acts of terror, including white supremacist extremists. Now, that is relevant because right now, Nielsen's the head of Homeland Security. Homeland Security. Trump administration is in charge. So do I want them to combat Islamic extremism? Of course, of course. We all live in this country. We don't want to die from any of these terrorists. But do I want them to spend as much time or a proportionate amount of time also fighting right-wing extremism? Of course, who wouldn't want that? Except the Trump people. Get a load of this. The Trump administration last year revoked federal funding for a program aimed at de-radicalizing neo-Nazis. Look, even under Obama, they defunded parts of the government that were focused on right-wing extremists. And guess what happened? We had more right-wing extremist plots that were carried out and cost people's lives. By the way, all of this is disproportionate. The media coverage is disproportionate. The way the government handles it is disproportionate. And you keep asking yourself, why? Why does every time a Muslim does something, all of cable news goes blasted nonstop? That's fine, because those are big, interesting events. But then when a right-wing terrorist comes and executes someone and does it for the same kind of political reasons and declares it as such, nothing. Why is that not interesting? Why is that not also concerning? And then finally, think about how disproportionate all of this is. I mean, the good news is those numbers overall are low. So 34 people killed last year. In one mass shooting in Vegas, for example, but pick your mass shooting, we had about 58 people killed, more than all of the terrorist acts in America combined. You know what the real problem is? And so these terrorists, some of them did it with knives, some of them did it with buses, with trucks, I should say, some of them did it with swords. But the mass shootings that kill far more people are done with guns. And those high-powered weapons wind up killing a lot more of us. And the coverage of that, should the big mass shootings, now you got to get to like 50 people before they cover it nonstop. Now when you just shoot and kill 4 people, it's not that big a story, it just goes away right away. Partly because we are inundated by it, to be fair to the media. And partly because it's not as scary. Oh, boo, the Muslims are coming, oh my God. Oh, your neighbor shot 12 of you. Yeah, anyway, we're moving on. Understand what the real threats are, understand the proportion of those threats so that we could respond. You know why? Because I want to keep everybody safe. We want our families safe, we want our communities safe. So let's actually spend the resources, the time and the energy in addressing the issues that are going to keep us safer, not just get everybody into a hate and fear-filled world where people use it for political demagoguery. Okay, now let's go to other problems in politics. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is an organization meant to protect consumers from the financial industry. Now, it turns out, as you're going to see, you need that protection. Just on the stuff that they caught the banks doing, they have returned a ton of money to you guys. I'm going to give you the number in a little bit. So it's meant to protect you, and it does. Those banks aren't going to hand over the money to this agency unless they were caught red-handed. They got a team of lawyers. They got armies of lawyers. And if they are accused of something they didn't do, believe me, they're going to fight it to the end of the earth. So, but they keep getting caught over and over again. So this is a problem for Republicans because most of their donors, or a lot of their donors, I should say, are from the financial industry. They're big banks. Now, Trump ran against the global financial elite, but in reality, he filled his cabinet full of the global financial elite. His top economic advisor is the former head of Goldman Sachs. Steve Bannon used to be with Goldman Sachs. Steve Mnuchin is Treasury Secretary, Goldman Sachs. And the list goes on and on. Steve Mnuchin also went on to do horrific fraud and take advantage of people whose houses had been foreclosed. He foreclosed on a grandmother for, I think, 37 or 39 cents that she was past due on. So this is the swamp that he pretended to be against but put in charge. Now, a prime example of that is Mick Mulvaney. There isn't a bank that Mick Mulvaney hasn't wanted to make love to. The bigger, the more he's interested in it. So what did Trump do? He's like, oh, I got a great idea. I'll put Mick Mulvaney in charge of consumer protection from the banks. Now you're going to get a sense of what Mulvaney actually thinks in a little bit about Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, but he was put in there to destroy that organization, to make sure you are not protected and the banks can keep robbing you. Now I'll give you the evidence. As Talking Points memo explains here, Mick Mulvaney, the Trump-appointed acting director of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, asked for $0 in his quarterly budget request Wednesday. Zero. It almost seems like he doesn't want to do consumer protection. The move is unprecedented. The Consumer Watchdog Agency has reliably asked the Fed for tens of millions of dollars quarterly to cover its operating expenses. The requests have topped $200 million 4 times and have never been rejected. Part of the reason for that is we're getting our money's worth. We spend that on the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and we get back billions from the banks in money they were defrauding you guys. But Mulvaney doesn't want to protect you. That's why he asked for no money to protect you. He wants to protect the banks. That's why he wants to dismantle this program. Here we go. TPM goes on to quote here, used to help, quote, consumer. Let me explain this a little bit better. Let's back up. So Mulvaney goes in there. By the way, he's not even supposed to be the leader of that organization. By law, it actually goes to the acting deputy director, who's Leandra English. But Trump's like, rule of law, I don't care about the law, just put them in there and destroy it, right? So when Mulvaney gets in there, he changes the mission statement. So this is what the mission statement used to be. It used to help, quote, consumer finance markets work by making rules more effective, by consistently and fairly enforcing those rules, and by empowering consumers to take more control over their economic lives. Old mission statement is about empowering consumers to do this. Now let's look at the new mission statement. Now CFPB is, quote, a 21st century agency that helps consumer finance markets work by regularly identifying and addressing outdated, unnecessary, or unduly burdensome regulations. You understand that? They changed it to from protecting consumers to protecting the banks from regulation. So he's like, Did we say consumers? We meant the Bank Financial Protection Bureau. So now our new mission is get rid of all the regulations, let the banks run wild. You know what regulation is? It's rules. Hey, you're not allowed to rip off your consumers. You're not allowed to say, hey, you know what? Even though all these different payments came in at the same time, I'm gonna take the biggest one first so that all the rest are overcharges, and I'm gonna charge you $35 for each one of those overcharges. Those are among the 1,000 different ways that banks rip you off. Now he's saying, oh, that's an unduly burdensome regulation. Get rid of it, rip them off all you like. They put the robbers in charge of the banks. So, you know why they want to destroy this? Just last year alone, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau got back to you guys, the consumers, $12 billion. That's $12 billion the bank said, yep, we shouldn't have charged you that, but we tried to get away with it. But this bureau actually fighting for consumers, for real citizens, caught us and we had to give the money back. So they don't want that. They want the banks to keep the $12 billion. This is the global financial elite. This is the swamp. Okay, and he's not done yet. He announced on Tuesday that the Bureau would, quote, reconsider a planned CFPB rule to regulate predatory payday lenders. They're predatory payday lenders. Give them a break already. You consumers want protection from financial predators. What do you think? I'm running a Consumer Protection Bureau? No. Now the new rules are going to be payday lenders do anything you like. There's no more regulation. You want to be predators, be predators. You want to charge them 3,000% interest, charge them 3% interest, 3,000% interest. Because Mick Mulvaney is not here to help you. He's here to rob you. He is the corruption. These people are sick. And if you voted for Trump thinking he was going to end the corruption and he was going to fight against the banks, man, that was a sick joke on you. Speaking of which, you know what Mick Mulvaney called the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau before he took it over? Quote, a sick, sad joke. He said, that's all this thing is. Trump's like, oh, you think it's a joke? Why don't you go in there and destroy it? Like, for example, when they need money, ask for no money. And then they won't have any money and you'll have to fire everybody and close the place down. They don't have your best interests in mind. They have their donors' best interests in mind. This is the robbery. God damn it. All right. Now, I promised you a fun story, but I'm going to have to take a break because this one's going to take too long. But it is great. It's about the prosperity preachers and how they just need those jets. But lucky for them, one got one, and I'm going to show you his gleeful video when we return. Kasparian just came in here and busted my chops for taking too long. All right, I hear you, Casper. Okay, she's coming up next and she has some great stories. All right, let me read quick tweets before I get to my final story of the day. Don't you see I'm loco writes in, Islamic terrorists are also right-wingers. That's a great point, and I don't mention it every time, but I should. They're the right wing of the Islamic world. I Am Sock says, when they say play to your base, they don't mean let Nazis kill people. At least that's what not what they used to mean. Okay, Crayfish Caddy says, there's no money to be made off of right-wing terror hysteria. That's why it's downplayed. Well, that's part of it. The other part of it is that it's hard to make the right wing the others because they're roughly half the country. It's easier to say, oh, Muslims, they're the others. They're scary. Gays, they're the others. They're scary. That's what they used to say that about divorced people until they became too large a percentage of the population. Then they're like, oh, that part in the Bible where it says you shouldn't get divorced, we're dropping that. Nobody cares about that anymore. It's too hard to demagogue on that. Okay, and by the way, member shout outs are Gabriel Arenas and Kathy Scheller. Thank you for supporting the show. tytnetwork.com/join. Oh my God, I did a story about the banks. And let me just tell you, look, we have our sponsor, you guys know about it, aspiration.com. They're the lib bank, but you can't call them a bank. Anyway, and they're the libs because they give away way too much money, 1% interest rate when the others are like at 0.025 or something. There's no money for using any ATM in the country, either from your bank or their bank. There's no monthly minimums. I mean, they give away 10% to charity. They're clean. First of all, I don't know why conservatives aren't going over there and going, libs, give me the money. But I've decided that going forward, when someone's overly generous, I'm going to say they're aspiration.com because those terms are too good. So anyway, that's my decision and I'm sticking with it. So now let's go over here and tell you about people who have taken advantage of people's generosity. All right. Anna's right, I talk too much. Anyway. So Kenneth Copeland is one of these guys who claims to be a prosperity preacher. So what does that mean? That means he robs you for his own benefit. He says, oh my God, I talked to the Lord Jesus Christ. And he said that I need a mansion and your dumbass has to pay for it. And then I talked to the Lord Jesus Christ, you're not gonna believe this. He says I need a yacht and your dumbass needs to pay for it. And then now, lately, and a lot of them do this, and I'm gonna give you a couple of examples here. White preachers do it, black preachers do it. They're like, this is a good scam, man. These guys will believe anything. They think this guy walked on water with virgin birth. You know what? Guess what they need? It turns out I need a jet. And so this gentleman, Kenneth Copeland, asked for a jet, and he got it. They gave him money for his own jet. So he's beside himself. So he did a video bragging about it, rubbing it in people's face. Oh, you gave me $100. Your kids can't eat lunch for the whole week. Look at my jet, you morons. Here he is.
We took possession of the Gulfstream 5, and we give God praise for it and thanksgiving. It is debt-free.
This is a big deal, man. It's a big airplane. Hey, are you looking at this? Look, hey, are you seeing this? I hope so. You bought it. You and Jesus. Father, we thank you so. And I'm asking you now, sir, according to your word, bless our partners beyond measure. Yes, in the name of Jesus. For you said in 2002, I'm sending you new partners who are very strong financially and they will obey me. And I will increase your longtime partners and they will obey me. And you will not come short. And you will not fail. And you will not lack. And you will not come behind. And you will not be diminished. Praise God. Isn't that good? Hallelujah. And it's coming to pass. You know why? Jesus is Lord.
Man, they can find an excuse for anything in the Bible. They took that quote out of the Bible of you should be in the high places on earth. It doesn't mean you should be in a high place on a $36 million jet, and that's what this is. It's a $36 million jet. And you hear that cackle? Yeah, right? He's laughing at you, you don't even know it. And when he was talking about partners, I was like, wait, is this a business or something? Does he have business partners? In which case, okay, if they made a lot of money, they buy a private jet, that's their business, not my business, right? No. By partners, they mean the schmucks in the pews who gave me their hard-earned money thinking they're going to heaven when I just took their money and I turned it into a $36 million jet for my own ass. What are you doing with the jet? It's a big aeroplane. What do you need that big aeroplane for? I see you and your wife. What are you doing? Are you loading that plane up with dozens of people going to feed the hungry and the poor? No, he just likes to go around the country in comfort. Okay, in case you need clarity on that. By the way, he brags that it's debt-free. Yeah, it's debt-free because other people paid for it. The people who mistrusted you and believed that you had their best intention of mind were the suckers who paid for it. That's why it's debt-free. So in case you're confused about it, here's where he got the idea. Jesse Duplantis, who's another one of these scam artist preachers, him and Copeland sitting around what appears to be a kitchen table, but is not. It's a TV set meant to make it seem like, oh, they're so homely. And they're having a conversation about, hey, how are we gonna pay for things? Like, oh, you're getting a bologna sandwich? How are we gonna pay for that? No, but in their case, they're talking about jets. So listen.
Brother Copeland, I was flying home from a meeting, and I had come out of a glorious meeting. I had just finished, me and Creflo Dollar were preaching. Had a glorious meeting. So I was, for lack of a better way to say it, I was spiritually high. I said, people were saved, touched, and blessed. Got in the plane that God so graciously gave us. We're flying home. As I was going home, the Lord, real quickly, he said, Jesse, do you like your plane? Now, I thought that's an odd statement. I said, well, certainly, Lord. He said, do you really like it? And I thought, well, yes, Lord. Then he said this, so that's it? I didn't know how to handle it. I went, what? He said, you're gonna let your faith stagnate? And when he said that, that shocked me. I went, whoa, wait. I literally unbuckled my seatbelt in my plane. I stood up. My pilots looked at me and said, do you need something? I said, no, I'm talking to God right now. And he went back to flying. I said, Lord, I don't think I was letting my faith stagnate. He said, so this is all I could ever do. I said, you're trying to tell me something. When God tells you your faith stagnating, you better start listening. And I thought, stagnating?
You can't stay here. You gotta do this or you're gonna do this.
He said this, you're on cruise control. You're moving, but no longer by your power. See?
That's what the DVD is about.
That's what that DVD is about.
Yeah, that's the DVD they're trying to scam you with. Okay, so get a load of this guy. First of all, he says, I talked to Creflo Dollar. We'll come back to Creflo Dollar because he's another preacher that rips people off for jets. I'll come back to you in a sec, okay? So they're all in it together. Okay, but then I was like, I had to watch that video twice. I'm like, wait, who was he talking to? Turns out he was talking to the Lord. In the plane, he was talking to God. And did you understand what he said? God says to him, your plane sucks. You got a private jet, not good enough. I don't want your faith to stagnate. You need to ask your dumbass followers for a bigger jet. That's what that conversation was about. Really, you remember when God interrupted you in the middle of something and said, hey, by the way, Bob, you need a bigger jet. Remember when you had that conversation with God? How could you believe this? How could you believe this, God? Oh, God, how can you believe this? Really? You think that guy, that scam artist, is talking to God and God says, don't feed the poor, don't feed the needy, don't take care of the sick. You need a bigger jet. Who's that? Oh, God, man. Look, I love you guys. I don't want to yell at you that if you gave them your hard-earned dollars and you think you're going to heaven, but you're wrong, they're tricking you. They're laughing at you on that jet. Now here's Copeland one more time talking to him and talking about taking a passenger airline. Ugh, then I'd have to be in there with regular people. Watch.
You couldn't have done that on an airliner.
No, sir, no way.
Stand up and say, what'd you say, Lord?
No.
Okay, no, yeah. And the guy sitting over there saying, what the hell does he think he's doing? You can't do that.
You can't do that.
No. The world is in such a shape, we can't get there without this.
That's right.
We've got to have this. We would have, the mess that the airlines are in today, I would have to stop. I'm being very conservative. At least 75 to 80, more like 90% of what we're doing, because you can't get there from here.
It's impossible.
So and this was such a good illustration. I just, the Lord impressed me. That's why we're on that airplane. We can talk to God.
Glory to God. It's true.
It's when I was flying for Oral Roberts, the Brother Deweese, my boss on the airplane, he said, "Now, Kenneth, this is sanctuary. It protects the anointing on Brother Roberts." And he said, "You keep your mouth shut. Don't talk to him unless he talks. Because when he's on a meeting, he doesn't talk to anybody but God." Now, Oral used to fly airlines.
Right.
But even back there then, man, it got to the place where it was agitating his spirit, people coming up to him. He had become famous, and they wanting him to pray for him and all that. You can't manage that today.
Right.
This dope-filled world. Right. You get in a long tube with a bunch of demons.
Right. That's exactly the
truth. And it's deadly.
And it works on you hard. It really does.
That's what they think of you, man. Getting on a long tube with demons. Who are the demons? We, regular people. To them, demons. And then they're agitating your spirit by asking you to pray for them. I don't have time to pray for you, you idiot. Give me a jet. Give me a jet. That's going to be my sanctuary. How could you believe this? How could you believe this? We couldn't get down to 75, 85, 90% of what we need to do. If we didn't have a private jet, how we going to do it? Got to fly with you regular people who we despise and call demons. And then you're going to want me to pray for you. You're a goddamn pastor. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to pray for people. And God, their contempt for you is unreal. And yet you give them money so they can laugh at you behind your back. Jesus Christ, literally. Impossible. Yeah, nobody can get around this country on a regular jet. Nobody takes planes, right? Don't you have your private jet? It's impossible to get around otherwise. I mean, what are you gonna do, fly with all those demons? So, like I told you, another guy looking to get private jets who's another prosperity preacher is Creflo Dollar. And he already had a jet, but he thought that one's not good enough, and I'll show you why in a sec. So he asked his parishioners for not $36 million for a jet. Copeland flying too low. Creflo wanted $65 million for his jet. So he got a lot of heat for that. And then for a little while, because of the media attention, he said, "Okay, fine. I don't need a $65 million jet." And then once people stopped paying attention, you know what he did? He went back and asked for the $65 million jet again. They're unreal. Here, you know what? Let me skip to graphic 47 for a second, because I want to read to you the very last sentence in when they asked for the jet again. This is Dollar now. By the way, his last name is Dollar. He named himself Creflo Dollar. Anyway, we the World Changers family so value the lives, the safety, and the well-being of our pastors and leaders that we wish to provide to them the best air travel experience possible. I love that quote because they're not even pretending. They're not pretending it's for you, it's for the needy or anything. They're like, how could a pastor of a mega church fly around with a tube full of demons? He's got to have the best possible jet. If he doesn't have a $65 million jet, how in the world is he supposed to talk to Jesus Christ? It doesn't matter where they're from. It's the bottom line is the only thing they care about, man. Ripping you off is the only thing they care about. But why does Creflo Dollar, hold on now, one more time. He named himself, that's not his given name. He named himself Creflo Dollar. What? If he gets this jet, you know what? He's just going to change his name to I Rip You Off. And you'll be like, oh, okay, great. Oh man, that I Rip You Off preacher is awesome. Where do I send the money? Okay, now why does he need a new jet? Because this is what happened to his old jet. Take a look at the tweet. Oops. I guess Jesus wasn't his co-pilot. Now wait a minute, I thought the whole point of the jet was because Jesus was on your side. Why isn't Jesus looking out for that jet of yours? It's almost as if he wanted you to crash the jet because you're such a scam artist ripping off all the people who came to church looking for salvation. And then you know what he did? Of course, Creflo turned around because this is all they do is lie, 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 lie. So he turned around and goes, oh, the jet crashed. By the way, nobody was hurt. The jet crashed because of the grace of God. Well, why? He's like, well, it crashed, but no one got hurt. I'm like, Lord Jesus, give me a new jet. Well, why didn't Jesus just not crash it in the first place? Don't ever send these guys money, man. The world's biggest scam artists. All right, I gotta go. Casper's coming next. All right, we'll be right back. back on the Young Turks. Our own Bart Kyle writes in, Bono from the rock band U2 said, it said it best about the greed of evangelical preachers. The God I believe in ain't short of cash, mister. Yeah, why don't you just pray to Jesus and he'll give you the jet instead of asking people who aren't making any money to give you money for a goddamn jet. Anyway, Screaming for Change says, religion is so important in our government because it indoctrinates a person to believe the bullshit lies and not question the higher power. Puke. But look, that's a super important point there. Because once you've got people believing in a higher power without question, then the government can trick you out of anything, right? All right, how you doing, Casper?
I'm doing fine.
Everything's gonna be all right, Casper.
I'm excited today. I don't know why. There's no particular reason. I'm just in a really good mood.
For no particular reason at all. Okay. By the way, you're probably excited because of our new koozies.
I love the word koozie, so yes, I am excited because I have an opportunity to say the word several times. These are fantastic. If you don't want to wear t-shirts, it's okay because you can buy these koozies, support TYT, and drink alcoholic beverages in style, political style.
That says Richie Bitch. This one is Kofefe.
So good.
Okay. ShopTYT.com and let us all agree that koozie is among the most unfortunate words in the English language.
No, it's one of the best words. It's fun to say.
Okay. Joke about.
Let's get to the news because I have so many stories that I want to talk about.
Go.
So let's start off with some mansplaining accusations. Homeland Security Secretary Kristen Nielsen was testifying in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee in regard to accusations against Donald Trump, saying that certain countries were so-called shithole countries. Of course, he was talking about African countries, Haiti and El Salvador. Now, during that hearing, she testified that she didn't remember that exact word being used, and Cory Booker was not pleased with her answer. Take a look at their exchange.
Now, I've been in the Oval Office many times, and when the commander-in-chief speaks, I listened. I don't have amnesia on conversations I had in the Oval Office going back months and months and months. And I've had individual meetings with the president, and I've had group conversations where there was, as you said, crosstalk. Dick Durbin to Lindsey Graham, they seem to have a much better recollection of what went on. You're under oath. You and others in that room that suddenly cannot remember. It was Martin Luther King that said, there's nothing in this world more dangerous than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity. King said, a man dies when he refuses to stand up for that which is right. A man dies when he refuses to stand up for justice. A man dies when he refuses to take a stand. Elie Wiesel says, we must take side. Neutrality helps the oppressor. Gandhi said, silence becomes cowardice. Cowardice. When the occasion demands speaking out like Lindsey Graham did. And that you could even say in your testimony the Norwegians were preferenced by him because they're so hardworking.
I didn't.
Excuse me, let me finish.
Happy to.
Okay, so he was obviously very impassioned during his comments on her testimony. And remember, she said that she remembers tough language, but she doesn't recall exactly what that tough language was. And she said that she didn't recall the word shithole being used by Donald Trump. So that's the reason why Cory Booker responded in that way. Now, there's a follow-up to this story, and the follow-up is accusations of sexism and mansplaining. Who is making those accusations? It's actually the RNC chairwoman. Her name is Ronna McDaniel. She goes on CNN, and hear the case that she's trying to make. Take a look.
Well, Chris, I just think it would have been covered differently if it were a Republican senator yelling or lecturing a woman coming before the Senate, not giving her a chance to explain herself, grandstanding. I know he's auditioning for 2020. I understand that. But he was disrespectful, and he did mansplain to her. And she's an intelligent woman. She's the Secretary of Homeland Security, and she deserved an opportunity to answer.
Well, she was there for a
rant.
long time. She was answering. She just kept saying the same thing.
What? Okay, so she is saying that Cory Booker is mansplaining to her, when in reality, Cory Booker is talking to her, communicating with her in the exact same way that you would expect, senators or other politicians to communicate with one another when they disagree. You see that type of rhetoric being used all the time. To say that he was mansplaining is actually, in my opinion, insulting to women, because she is essentially saying there, well, it's a woman, and so you need to treat her differently. You need to be softer with her. You need to be gentler with her. You can't treat her as if she's an adult who can handle, some criticism or tough talk from another individual.
So I'm going to break down what Ronald McDonald said a little bit better, or a little bit more there. So number one, Cory Booker is not talking about women's issues. He's talking about denigrating all African countries, plus Haiti, plus El Salvador. And first of all, you gotta understand why anybody be upset about that. But Cory Booker's also African American, so I think he gets to be upset about that to any degree that he likes. Now, she says he's grandstanding and running for 2020. Look, he's a politician. If she left it at that, I'd say, okay, he did make a political speech. I think he gets to be pissed about that, and and if you're a progressive and you're questioning, is he really pissed? Who cares, man? He's on the right side of the issue and he's fighting. Good, I want all the Democratic senators to fight, so I'll take it, okay? Now, on to the mansplaining part. So don't hide behind sexism when you are not in favor of women's rights. When you are taking away reproductive rights from women, including a story we did just yesterday, okay? And you're taking away all sorts of rights for women, you don't believe in equal pay, you don't believe in any of these things. And the minute a Republican woman is criticized on any issue, doesn't matter what the issue is, oh, he's mansplaining. Nope. Now all of a sudden I care about sexism. And I'm claiming that if you dare criticize a Republican woman, that's sexism and it's mansplaining to her. Oh, get the fuck out of here. I'm sorry if you're gonna be offended because, oh, I forgot, Ronald McDonald is a Republican woman. I'm not allowed to criticize her as a progressive. I'm not sure if you got the memo. We don't give a shit about those rules. You're totally full of shit. You're not for women's rights. So don't come in here on a completely different issue trying to subvert the topic and claim the shield of sexism when in reality you guys are not, don't give a damn about that issue.
Right, look, mansplaining is not, women refusing to be treated equally or spoken to in, in a tough way. Mansplaining, I'll give you an example of mansplaining. And it doesn't even necessarily have to do with the topic of sexism or misogyny. There was this one time where I was having a conversation with a guy and he knows very well what I do for a living. And he approached me and the executive producer of the show, who also happens to be a woman, by saying, oh, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Chris Christie from New Jersey. And he just started kind of talking about politics to us as if we know nothing about politics. And it was a condescending tone, almost made it seem as though we know nothing, even though we do the work that we do. And so that is mansplaining, just coming at it or approaching a conversation from this perspective of, I know better than you, you probably don't know anything. And that is not what Cory Booker was doing there. What he was doing there was making the case that, hey, you remaining complicit in this issue allows the oppressors to continue to oppress. And it brings our country down. Now, Cory Booker responded to these accusations. I want to give him an opportunity to respond and you an opportunity to take a look at it. So let's see.
Well, first of all, I'm glad they're finally attacking me. They attack senators almost every single day, but it's a little insulting to say that I should be treating cabinet secretaries one way or another depending upon their gender. I'm standing here as a United States senator in my official capacity, challenging a cabinet secretary who's lying before the Senate on an issue that affects my state, as well as this nation, as well as us internationally, something as serious as her lying about overt bigotry coming out of the White House.
Okay, so I think that's a good response. It is insulting. I wouldn't want any guy to speak to me differently than his male colleagues simply because I'm a woman. Now, she did respond to that, so let's look at her response.
Why would he have to treat Nielsen differently? She's so strong, she's so competent, she's so empowered. Why would he have to talk to her differently than he would to a man?
I don't think he should have to talk to her differently, but I will say, he was disrespectful to her as the Secretary of Homeland Security, and he was mansplaining to her. And I do think there's
How is it mansplaining just because she's a woman? That's what you're saying. Because they talk to people like that all the time, Rana. They talk to men like that all the time.
as to how Elizabeth Warren is treated versus how Secretary Nielsen is treated.
The president calls her Pocahontas.
Yeah, but when Democrats interrupt Elizabeth Warren, the media goes crazy. And when it just happened to Secretary Nielsen, they didn't go crazy. It happens.
It's almost impossible to interrupt Elizabeth Warren.
Well, that's a fact. That's true.
No, I have to jump in because first of all, she said Democrats interrupting Elizabeth Warren. No. The drama involving Elizabeth Warren had nothing to do with Democrats interrupting her. It was during the confirmation hearings for Jeff Sessions, and Elizabeth Warren wanted to bring up some concerns over Jeff Sessions' racist past and racist statements. And you know what Republicans in the Senate did? They literally shut her up. They shut her up by using some obscure rule that had never been used before, so she wouldn't be able to continue on with that line of questioning. They didn't mansplain to her, they didn't interrupt her, they literally stopped her from her line of questioning. Okay, that's very different.
Okay, that was awesome by Chris Cuomo. So she's like, oh, can you believe the sexism of Cory Booker mansplaining to Nielsen? That's the implication in what Ronald McDonald's saying. And so when she says, and how about Elizabeth Warren? And Cuomo's like, you want to talk about sexism? Trump calls Warren Pocahontas.
Yeah.
That might be the very worst person you could bring up as an example in this context. And you work for Trump. You work for Trump, who brags about sexual assault, been charged by 17 different women saying that he's done these terrible things to them. I mean, we don't even have to get into all that. That calls as United States Senator Pocahontas, and now you're gonna come in here and say, oh, I am shocked and chagrined that a Republican woman wouldn't be treated with respect. I find out that there's sexism in the world.
No, I mean, come on. You are supportive of a president who has openly called women pigs, who has talked about groping women without their consent, who has talked about women's weight and how overweight he thinks certain women are, who has gone after women who have accused him of sexual misconduct by discussing their physical appearance. You want to talk about sexism? Take a good hard look at your own political party.
They have no shame at all, man. They not only do they do the terrible acts, sexism, racism, etc., then they use it as a spear and a shield. The minute they get a chance, they weaponize it and they go, oh, that's it. You can't ever criticize a Republican woman. That's it. I'm weaponizing the thing that I don't care about at all. I work for the monster named Donald Trump, who laughs at the idea of sexism. And I get paid by him. Hey, I collected my checks. No big deal. So let me come in here and start to try to smear Democrats because they had the temerity to disagree with a Republican woman. Get the fuck out of here.
All right, moving on to some other news. The University of Alabama has maybe expelled a student following her posts on Instagram berating African Americans and saying that she does not have any remorse about it. After she might have gotten expelled, and the reason why I say might have gotten expelled is because the university says she's no longer enrolled, but they won't confirm that they expelled her. She said that she's extremely sorry. But let me show you guys the videos in question. I want to warn you that it does use some incredibly harsh language. It's difficult to hear, but this is Harley Barber, and these are posts on her Instagram page. Take a look.
The poor people going on, and we do not waste water. We don't waste water because the people in Syria. I love how I act like black people, but I love how I act like I love black people because I fucking hate niggers. So that's really interesting. I fucking hate niggers, but I just saved the fucking niggers by shutting that water off. So jump on it, jump on this, jump on this, jump on this, jump on. That's like I'm gonna probably jump on your man with my fucking whoop.
Okay, so she had posted that on Instagram and she received some backlash for it. And you would think that maybe after that backlash, she would realize this wasn't a good idea, maybe I should apologize. But that is not what Haley Barber did. She posted another video onto Instagram saying the following.
Sorority. I've wanted to be an Alpha Phi since I was fucking in high school, and nobody fucking understands how much I love Alpha Phi. And now someone wants to stake my fences because I said nigger. You know what? Nigger, nigger, nigger. No, I don't care if it's Martin Luther King Day. Nigger, nigger, nigger. I'm in the South now, bitch. So everyone can fuck off. I'm from New Jersey. So
so I can say nigger as much as I want. Nigger, nigger, nigger. And if anyone else wants to fucking snake me on my fucking Finsta for saying nigger, I'm in a fur vest. I want you to buy my fucking fur vest. Cause fuck you. Go to Neiman Marcus and buy my fucking fur vest. Cause fuck you. If you fucking snake me to my fucking sorority, that means fucking everything to me. Because fuck you.
The University of Alabama president released a statement following the release of those videos indicating that she's no longer enrolled at the university. He said, quote, "We hold our students to much higher standards and we apologize to everyone who has seen the videos and been hurt by this hateful, ignorant, and offensive behavior." She was also let go by her sorority, which in that video she claimed to love so much. And after all of this backlash, she did apologize by saying the following: "I don't know what to do and I feel horrible. There's just no excuse for what I did."
Oh, all of a sudden you feel bad after you got caught, and she says she was expelled from the school. So now you're not in your beloved sorority that you cared so much about, and you thought, hey, I'll go to the South and I'll get to be racist. And now when you find out that that's not cool, all of a sudden you're heartbroken over it. Does anyone actually believe that she's actually sorry, other than because of the consequences that happened to her? Do you think that she had a moment where she was like, oh, you know what, I might have hurt black people there, or maybe I misunderstood, or you know what, I now recognize the plight of African Americans in this country and recognize the degree to which they get shot, or this or that, or any of these different things, or arrested at disproportionate. She's just sorry that she was so stupid and did it publicly and didn't realize there'd be consequences for her over-the-top, insane level of racism.
So apparently she had what's being referred to as a Finsta, which is a more secretive Instagram account aside from her other Instagram account that's more public. And in this more secretive one, people usually post more sensitive content to smaller groups of people. And I guess one of the people who follows her there did not find those videos entertaining and decided to copy them and make them more public. But for me, it's much less about this one particular person, although her comments are disgusting. It's more about the environment in which she's in that makes her feel comfortable enough or supported enough to say the things that she said, right? Like some of her statements really stood out to me. The fact that she's in the South now. So you think that since you're in the South, that kind of behavior is accepted. And maybe in the bubble that she's in, it is accepted. And I think that's more of a much more important conversation to have, as opposed to this one incredibly ignorant woman, mouthing off like that on social media.
Yeah, that's a great point, Anna. Look, when it comes to individuals, she's not a public figure, so I am a little conflicted. She seems like a terrible, terrible person, right? And I'm deeply embarrassed that she's from New Jersey, my home state. So she's not out of the school, out of the sorority. I don't know what's gonna happen to her life, right? And so I guess the liberal side of me is I don't need to be any more punitive. I don't know, people are gonna track her when she tries to get a job. Just that's it, leave it alone, okay? She got punished, she's a bad person, and she, by the way, she's so dumb, she put University of Alabama in a completely untenable position. Yeah. If they keep her in the school, it confirms that the South is racist and Alabama is racist and that school is racist. They have to kick you out, you're so dumb. Anyway, but overall, and she, other parts of her, I want a fur vest, I don't know what that is. And they say, I'm gonna steal your man. You're a very classy person all around. Anyway, but Anna's point is the most important one. Look at all the other people around her, right? I'm not looking for vengeance and punitive action. I'm not looking to go kick those other girls out, the one that was on camera and stuff. I'm just saying, like, what's important here for the rest of society is, nobody was saying like, whoa, hey, Haley or Harley, bring it down, right? Don't post that, Harley, right?
Yeah.
They're all like, yeah, N-word, that's so funny. Oh, yeah, that's right. Oh, yeah, don't snake her, you N-words or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, she's like, at least in the environment that she was saying those things in, she was completely supported, right? And so that emboldened her. That made her feel like that was totally okay and totally acceptable. So there's that part of it, but also the other part is, She's 19. She's 19. Like I sometimes when I feel the despair in regard to where we are with race relations in the country, the one thing that gives me a little bit of hope is younger generations get it, right? Younger generations grew up in a much more diverse environment where there's more tolerance and there's more understanding and more education. And then examples like that just kind of put me in this pit of despair again. You know better than that. You know better. And I can't understand people who are, in that age group spewing that kind of hatred.
And that's why I said I was disappointed she's from New Jersey. Because I grew up in New Jersey, but I grew up in a really multicultural town. And I don't think we had that. But now we've regressed how many years later, right? Now, not for the whole country and not for all of New Jersey, obviously. But the people who are inclined to think that way have been encouraged. In the old days, even if they thought it, they might have hesitated before making that so public. But now they think it's fine, we're in charge. We can do anything we want. Yeah. And that's not the case. And by the way, a good decision by the University of Alabama. You can't let that stand. I mean, how are the other students going to feel about that if University of Alabama basically says, "Oh, that's perfectly fine. She's, we're happy to have her stay here." So she forced their hand. I don't know, and I certainly don't care what happens with the rest of her life. And it's not about her. It's about a culture that, unfortunately, at this point, has some percentage of even young people who think it's a cool thing to say that, who think it's fun to say that, and who think it's a great idea and a big laugh to hate other groups of people.
I know. We got to take a break. Let's do so. When we come back, more news for you, including what the Trump administration is doing to Haitian foreign workers.
Oh, let me take a drink for my koozie.
We'll be back. Oh, did you guys help us win a Shorty Award last year?
Did you?
In the category of Audience Honor for Best Overall YouTube Presence?
Best Overall YouTube Presence.
We want to win it again this year.
That's right.
We want to win, and we can't do it without your help.
We need you.
We need you.
All right, so here's how we're gonna do it, guys. Look, we wanna win for Best Overall YouTube Presence for the Young Turks, but we also wanna win Best in Overall Facebook Presence and Best Web Series for The Breakdown, which is great. But let me tell you about YouTube Presence. Go to tytnetwork.com/YouTube Presence, which is very logical. Click on the vote in Best Overall YouTube Presence, also very logical. You can log in using your Facebook or Twitter accounts to create a Shorty account to submit your vote. You share your vote on social media, ba-bang, that counts as an extra vote. You're voting like crazy now. Now, do this for The Breakdown and Web Series and in a Facebook presence as well. And you're seeing the links to vote on your screen. And don't worry, we'll have them in the description box below. So easy peasy, you just go right there, just click, boom, you're there. And get a load of this. You can vote once per day all the way to February 22nd.
Every day, every day.
Go nuts, have fun. We always tell you to get out and vote. This gives you an opportunity to do it over and over again. Sorry, by the end, we might just get tired of winning.
No, and this is great practice for the midterm elections. Get that voting muscle in order.
That's right, here we go, ready?
Yeah.
Practice.
All right, well, the Young Turks special election day coverage dropping.
An amazing power panel.
Look at this panel. You want to talk about power?
Like a smart Destiny's Child.
We're all too strong.
We start a revolution. Yes, another one.
Aren't you excited?
Wow. Some of the best writers in the country are right here on this panel, with the obvious exception of John Irola.
Let's not so quickly discount Harry Potter fan fiction.
We have elected the top Twitter troll in the country.
What ran me away from Christianity was judgment and condemnation.
Assaulting peaceful protesters in North Dakota, crazier than bombing Yemen, crazier than bombing Syria so much they ran out of bombs.
Reductive interpretation of what their motives are, what Putin's are, by these amateur experts.
We don't kill our journalists, and they do.
Been easy for me. I started off in Brooklyn. My father gave me a small loan of $1 million. All my life, I was told no.
You said I had small hands. They're not small. I never heard that one before.
Look, we're doing interviews over there at youtube.com/TYT interviews. And we've done some amazing ones recently.
So now, of course, you know the person most widely considered to be the most progressive senator is Bernie Sanders. Yeah. Why not back him during the 2016 primaries? Why be a Democrat at all?
And we're in a time where you cannot, in good conscience, sit on the sidelines of history in 2017. Right.
All right, we are back on the Young Turks, Cenk Uygur and Anna Kasparian. Let me tell you about two fun things that are coming up. I've got Ben Cohen coming up next on Rebel Headquarters. Isn't that cool? From Ben and Cherries.
Oh shit, that is cool.
Yeah.
Does he have ice cream with him?
No, but it turns out we missed the deadline. We could have won free ice cream for life or something like that if we enter some sort of money out of politics contest. What?
That'll put me in trouble.
He's got new things. He's got new things. Okay, so that's coming up at 8:05 p.m. Eastern. Okay. Now the other cool thing is in the post game, I'm going to read you guys a letter by a young Trump supporter who typed out a letter and sent it to me. A young Trump supporter.
Is it nice or is it mean?
Only one way to find out.
Okay.
Okay, tytnetwork.com/join to be a member and get all the post games and get the show commercial free. Okay, not a lot of time, so let me just read two tweets. Tweets. What is a tweet? Okay, it sounds dirty, like a koozie. Anyway, all right. Jeremy Kohler writes in. The Republican Party should be given a new nickname because of how the sexism issue, the mansplaining. GOP, goddamn obvious projectors.
Yeah.
Agreed. Angels Advocate says, silly girl, you're not supposed to be openly racist. You're supposed to blow the dog whistle. But that's the thing. Trump put away the dog whistle.
He did. And even though it's painful to see this kind of stuff, I think that the one silver lining is that we can at least have an honest discussion about what really exists in the country, because prior to this, there was just this complete denial about racial tensions and racism and all that stuff. So. Oh no, I just decided I'm blowing out the post game. I'm going to do two other topics. One is a conservative billionaire gets into an accident that is not hilarious, that's not fair, but is a first world problem. Oh yeah. Okay, you're gonna love that story. And plus, #ripped has begun. I will explain. Oh my God, please don't do it. Just don't do it. But why do you, he's like a glutton for punishment though. Come on.
I'm a glutton for a lot of things apparently. Okay. Anyway, join us in the post game at tytnetwork.com/join. Okay.
Yes. The Department of Homeland Security has taken action against foreign workers who apply for visas from Haiti. Interesting. What's even more interesting is what they state about Haitian foreign workers and how clearly it's a lie, and I'll tell you how. Now, the Department of Homeland Security removed Haiti from a list of countries whose citizens are permitted to apply for low-skilled work visas. The H-2A visa is for agriculture, and the H-2B is for non-agricultural seasonal work in places such as resorts. Now, why is it that the Department of Homeland Security is specifically singling out Haiti? What is it about Haiti that makes them think, we don't want them applying for these workers? Well, DHS cited high levels of fraud and abuse from Haitians who use the program, as well as high rate of overstaying the terms. Now, it's important to keep in mind that there isn't this prevalence of Haitians coming into the United States and overstaying their visas. In fact, just a few dozen immigrants from Haiti use H-2A and H-2B visas each year.
Oh my God, what a flood of immigrants, a couple of dozen. Oh, that seems like a real problem we should address right away.
So, there was really terrible reporting on this story. I'm just gonna flat out say it, because every single article that I read about this story just quoted what the Department of Homeland Security said and left it at that. That wasn't good enough for me. I want to know what the numbers are. I want to know which countries overstay their workers' visas, which countries overstay their visas, period. Have there been studies into that, and what are the numbers? Well, interestingly enough, the Department of Homeland Security released a report early last year, actually mid last year, in May of 2017, and the numbers are from 2016. So I looked at the Haitian overstay rate, and it's at 3.86%. Again, this is specifically for 2016. And then I compared that number to other countries on the list, and I found that there are a lot of other countries on that list that actually have higher percentages. Let's put that down, because that's a completely different report that also reinforces the point that I'm trying to make. I compared the 3.86% to other countries, and I found that there are plenty of other countries that are much higher in their overstay rate. So, for instance, Afghanistan is at 13.71%, Albania is at 4.43%, Armenia is at 4.24%, Belarus 3.71%, Bhutan is at 25.13%. A bunch of countries. I mean, I can go on and on and on and on. Jordan, 5.97%.
So look, there's a couple of issues here, right? One is they're claiming, no, it's just a coincidence that we happen to pick Haiti after the president got all this heat for calling it a shithole, and for earlier saying everybody coming from Haiti has AIDS. So, but we were so concerned about the overstay problem. So one is the problem with the media, which they just reported as if it was fact. The administration claimed that their overstay rate was not 3-point-something odd percent. They said it was 40%.
That's ridiculous.
They made that up. And in every article, it says 40%. Nobody fact checked them. It's the Trump administration. Fact check them, okay? So then it makes, and by the way, don't you want to have some context? Let's say that it was 40%. Well, what's Canada's rate? What's Taiwan's rate?
I'm glad you asked, Cenk, because Pew Research also did its own study, and the numbers that I'm about to show you are actually from 2015. So this is a little bit older, because the numbers that I had previously shared with you were from a DHS study from 2016. But let's take a look at what Pew Research found. So this is a graph indicating which countries are leading in overstays here in the United States. Now, Canada is at number 1. You'll see the numbers right there, 93,035. Mexico comes in second, Brazil, Germany, Italy, UK, Colombia, China, India, and Venezuela. Those are the top countries that have the overstays here in the United States. Now look, I'm not saying this because I want all these other countries to be punished and I want to leave Haiti alone. I'm just making this point because when the Department of Homeland Security says that they are targeting Haiti because of their overstay rate, it is a lie. This is retaliation following Trump's comments during that immigration meeting that he had with the Gang of Six. That is what this is all about.
And look, if they had at another times done an analysis and found out, oh, it turns out Afghanistan, Albania, and Haiti are at the top 3 countries that are overstaying, which is not the case as Anna showed you. But those are the top 3, so we're gonna go and make sure the Albanians, the Afghans, and the Haitians don't overstay. I'd say, okay, that's perfectly logical.
Of course,
right?
exactly, yeah.
Right, but they're not doing that. They picked Haiti even though they're not anywhere near the top of the list, because now racism isn't just a matter of talk. And that's what the excuse that a lot of conservatives say. Oh, the president's just doing rough talk. Now it isn't talk anymore, it's action. Now Haitians are being punished because of Donald Trump's racist views about them. That's a fact.
It's scary stuff, but just understand what the reality is. And anytime you see an article, just quote what a government agency says without fact checking it. Please do your due diligence and fact check it, because you can't take what any public official says at face value. Okay.
Especially in this administration.
Exactly. All right, moving forward, I want to do the story about the gay couple, so I'm skipping ahead. A gay couple from Australia who got married in the United States is suing a printing company that they ordered their wedding programs from. Now, Vistaprint was the company that they chose to create their wedding programs, but instead of receiving the wedding programs that they expected, they got something completely different. Okay, so let me give you the details. They found 80 copies of a religious pamphlet instead of the 100 copies of the wedding program. The pamphlet spoke ominously of sin, lust, and temptation. Now again, keep in mind that this is a gay couple, and it's a little strange to get that kind of pamphlet when you are expecting your wedding program. Now, to give you some examples of what the pamphlet said, it had quotes like, "Fight the good fight of the faith," "Understanding temptation," "The supreme tempter is Satan, who uses our weaknesses to lead us into sin." It also included content that said, "Satan entices your flesh with evil desires. If you did not desire it, you would not be tempted by it."
Well, that's an interesting confession.
And here's what their program was supposed to look like. A little different.
No, this seems lovely.
A little different. So now the couple is planning on suing Vistaprint. And interestingly enough, Vistaprint is saying, no, this was a mistake. We do not condone this. We did not do this on purpose. It must have been some sort of mistake. Let me give you their exact statement. To know that any customer could feel treated in such a way, especially during a time that should be filled with joy, is extremely disheartening. We have never been more disappointed to let a customer down. Vistaprint in no way condones and does not tolerate discrimination against any of our customers based on their race, religion, gender, or sexual orientation. Now, Vistaprint says that they didn't mean to do this. There was some sort of mistake. They're investigating it. But I want to remind you of a story that we did yesterday. Under the Trump administration, any business, any individual can go ahead and discriminate against any group that it wants to discriminate against, as long as they mention their religious beliefs and their moral objections. So if Vistaprint wanted to fight this by saying that they have moral objections to a gay couple or a gay marriage, they could very well do it, and they would receive the protection necessary by the Trump administration.
So, and that would be a huge legal battle, and we'd have to see where it comes out, because there's different rules for private organizations and governments, and but it shouldn't be a battle. I thought we were past this, right? So I believe Vistaprint. They say the third-party fulfiller did this, not them. Why do I believe them? One, it's going to ruin your business. If you're a bigger company, you're unlikely to do this type of thing. You might do other bad things, like evade your taxes, but you're unlikely to do something like this. And second of all, they're a Dutch company. If they were an American company, that might be a little bit different, but Northern Europe is far more progressive than us. Okay, but the third-party fulfiller also says, oh no, golly gee, that was an honest mistake. That part I don't believe. It just so happened that the gay couple happened to get the right box, but inside the box, the wrong pamphlets, and it happened to be about how Satan tempts you to do the wrong thing sexually. That would be a hell of a coincidence, okay? Now, but my favorite part of the story is the accidental confession. So that last quote that Anna read you, if Satan entices your flesh with evil desires, if you did not desire it, you would not be tempted by it. In other words, those are some good Christian folks going, I mean, like, obviously we desire it. Otherwise, we wouldn't be tempted. So I'm telling you, I'm sending you a whole pamphlet. Don't give in to the temptation. I mean, it's super obvious that we all have the temptation. Remember Pastor Manning, who we interviewed? Check it out on TYT Interviews, who was like, well, obviously the semen's delicious.
Oh my God, I remember that.
You remember that? And he's like, and I'm like, were you tempted by it? He's like, of course, who's not tempted by sleeping with other men? Right? So all these guys writing out their pamphlets, they got issues, man.
What's interesting to me is the context in which some people think of gay marriage. So when the topic of gay marriage comes up, I mean, my mind has never wandered into the sexual activity of same-sex couples. Never. It doesn't come to mind unless we're doing a story about a conservative who needlessly gets into the nitty-gritty and the details of gay sex. My mind is just on the issue of civil rights, equality, those things. It's weird how they think of it immediately in the context of sexual behavior.
Yeah, and like Pastor Manning then got in trouble for saying, well, he does nothing but get himself in trouble. He was claiming that Starbucks was secretly putting semen in their coffee.
To make it so delicious.
To make it taste better so that, of course, everybody would be tempted to drink it if it had semen in it. But he's anti-gay. Okay, and these are the people that now, unfortunately, these type of people in charge with the Trump administration.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do one more story. Let's see if we can squeeze it in.
All right. A California couple has been arrested following the escape of their 17-year-old daughter, who alerted authorities and let the world know about the fact that these two had held their 13 children captive in their home for who knows how long. Authorities went to the home of David and Louise Turpin in Paris, California, and found some of their children shackled. They found unclean, unsafe conditions, and they also noticed that most of the children were severely malnourished. In fact, some of them were adults, but had the bodies of 10-year-olds.
So the one that escaped was a 17-year-old. Authorities said that she looked like she was 10. She had been plotting her escape for 2 years. Then they went and found, this story is developing, and every day there's some new horror involved in it. They found the old home that these guys used to live in Texas. And the new homeowner said, yeah, when we came in, we thought it was so weird because the carpets were all stained. And then we found out that sometimes they would chain up. First they used to tie the kids up with ropes, but one of the kids escaped from the rope. So then they started using chains. And sometimes they just wouldn't let him go to the bathroom.
No, I mean, the story, every day, it gets more and more horrific.
So then the Texas home, you got the stains on the carpets, I mean, to an unbelievable degree. Then they said there was vents on the closet doors and they couldn't figure out why. Turns out they were probably using the closets as cages because they had cages in the home in California, okay? And then the worst part of it, it's just heartbreaking. The doors had scratches on them.
So we have some photos of the Texas home. This is not the one in California. Let's start with graphic 63, and you kind of get a sense of what the conditions look like in this home, and how these poor kids lived. And so there you see the filthy carpet, and then you see the doors that have scratches on them, and that was what the Texas couple that made these pictures public were really harping on, the fact that they thought that those scratches on the doors were caused by dogs, pets, and now they are certain that those scratches are from the children trying to escape or get away.
Okay, and why did they do it? You know it, everybody knows it, religion. So, and their relatives claim, oh, we didn't know, oh, we hadn't talked to them in a couple of years or something. One of the kids is 29 years old and weighs 82 pounds.
Oh God, it's so
You didn't, she's 29 years old. How, you didn't know for all that time? Okay? No, a lot of people knew about this, unfortunately. But you know what? Religion excuses everything. So they were probably like, oh, well, they're good Christians and they're just trying to raise their kids in the right way. Don't excuse it. This is torture and they're charged with torture and child endangerment. They should have been charged a long time ago.
Right, and some of the kids have severe cognitive issues as a result of being malnourished for so long. I hope justice will be served, and so far it appears that is the case.
Ben Cohen from Ben & Jerry's coming up next on Rebel Headquarters. Bye-bye. All right, we've got a great Rebel Headquarters episode for you guys today. And my second guest is going to be the first socialist elected to office in a major city in America in decades. So fascinating. She is to the left of me, so it has happened. We finally have people to the left of me. So we're gonna talk to her in the next segment. You're gonna love our first guest though. Well, let me introduce him this way. There's a couple of reasons why I like Ben Cohen. One is that he is the founder of Ben & Jerry's, and well, that has earned the love of millions of people across the country. But number two, he's a huge fighter to get money out of politics and has been from day one. So Ben Cohen, welcome to Rebel Headquarters. Great to have you on TYT Network again.
Good to be with you, Rebels.
All right, great. So you and I have been fighting to get money out of politics for years and years and years, and you put together something great for the 8th anniversary of Citizens United. So can you tell us about that?
Yes, it is the amazing Stampathon Marathon on January 21st. Actually, it's the whole week leading up to January 1st, January 21st. We decided that we were going to do something really audacious for this anniversary, and said we're going to stamp 1 million bills, 1 million pieces of paper currency. We had no idea we could not. And 48 hours after we put out the call, people pledged to stamp over 1 million. So it's happening right now, and it concludes on January 21st. On January 1st, there's a bunch of stamping parties around the country. There's going to be a live stream, and it's going to be a blast. I mean, this is the biggest decentralized protest of Citizens United ever. And, you know, every time you stamp a bill, 875 people stamp. So times 1 million, that's 875 million. I mean, that's a lot. So it really, really powerful. The bills stay in circulation for 2.5 years, and this is a way that people can really make their money talk.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, this will be the first time that money is actually speech. Ben Cohen's been leading the charge on this for a long time. I remember being at a stamp party in LA a couple of years back, and we stamped a bunch of bills with it. And the messages on the bills, which you're allowed to do, by the way, legally, says not to be used to bribe politicians, and then stamp money out of politics, etc. And Ben, the other day, I got a bill back at lunch, and it had one of the stamps on it. And I was like, yes!
There you go, it's working. I tell you, more and more people are seeing those stamp bills. That's the beauty of this kind of protest. It's that it builds on itself. Bills that I stamped 2.5 years ago add up the bills that people are stamping today, and on January 21st. And there's still time for people to get online and pledge and get over to your bank, pull out a bunch of ones and rubber stamp them and spend them, making your money talk.
Yep. So Ben, I want the audience to understand a little bit better what's happening on the 21st, because there's a live stream. I know our own Nomiki Konst is going to be there. She's going to do a Facebook Live there as well. So what is the event on the 21st?
Well, there's house parties around the country, and there's some Ben & Jerry shops that are hosting these. And people are getting together. They're bringing a big wad of cash, and there's stamps available at those parties if people don't have a stamp. You know, it's just about 100,000 people who already have purchased Stampede rubber stamps to participate in this protest. And but if you don't have one, go to one of those house parties, and people are getting together, having a good time, stamping bills. Personally, for me, I have developed the world's first stamping ice cream cone licking machine. And I am able to stamp bills while the machine holds an ice cream cone, turns it around so I can kind of lick it as stamping for immediate gratification and incentivization of my bill stamping protest process.
So you know what, you bring up ice cream. I got to ask you a couple of quick questions about ice cream. But first, I want everybody to see the link. It's stampstampede.org/pledge. And we'll have it down below for you guys in the description box on YouTube and comment section on Facebook. Make sure that you participate in this great endeavor. And I'm gonna tell you the groups that are involved in it in a second. But you know, I've had you on a couple of times, Ben, throughout all these different years. I don't think I ever asked you, why ice cream? Why'd you get into ice cream in the first place?
Well, you know, Jerry and I were two slowest, fattest kids in junior high school gym club. And we were not being very successful at what we were trying to do after we finally graduated. I dropped out of a bunch of colleges, and he tried to get into med school and got rejected by all of them. And we decided, you know, let's try starting a small business. And the only thing we really liked doing together was eating. So we figured it had to be a food business. We wanted to take kind of a trend that was starting off in the big cities and take it to a rural college town. And the two things that were happening, bagels and homemade ice cream. And we didn't have enough money to get into the bagel business, so we figured ice cream had to be cheaper. And there you have it. The rest is ice cream history.
I wonder what would have happened. The world would have been completely different if you guys had gone into the bagel business instead. Maybe everybody's talking about the Ben and Jerry's bagels instead.
I was just reading the principles of uncertainty. It talks about how all these different things, all these great things, kind of happen by chance.
Yeah. Well, certainly Ben and Jerry's worked.
I mean, the Young Turks. I mean, that's kind of by chance. I mean, you didn't plan on becoming a Young Turk, did you?
No, you're right. I mean, we worked super hard, all these people here all this time, but we got really lucky. It just so happened that our politics matches the politics of the new generation online. Because if we had a different policy positions, et cetera, we never would have gotten this big. It's just that, and this is
But I tell you, you know, talking about the new generation online, the new generation online needs to get offline. It's in the real world that you can really, really make a difference. When you go and visit your congressperson, when you call your congressperson on the phone, when you rubber stamp dollar bills, you know, then you're being much more powerful than when you're, you know, clicking on whatever the latest thing is to click.
Yeah, and I don't know what it is about you guys in Vermont that makes you so active, but you know, you guys, and so liberal. Well, literally, let me ask that, because Bernie Sanders, you guys, so many, obviously Vermont's one of the most liberal states, if not the most liberal state in the union. What is it in the water or the ice cream in Vermont that creates these fighting liberals up there?
You know, I think a lot of it is about a rural, small farm based ethic. People care about each other. People help each other out. People are thrifty. They do things that make rational sense. And, you know, there's a neighborliness and a common sense factor.
Yeah.
So I think it comes really from the farming heritage.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because what you described there is, I think, what a lot of conservatives would have described about their states and why they're conservative. But somehow in Vermont it took a liberal turn, and I think the key word you used there was community. If you care enough about your community and you view the community as a larger entity, then I think that that leads people to being more progressive and looking out for each other and having empathy for each other. That's my theory. So
yeah, I think that's true. I mean, a lot of people, draw a box around their families and say, well, I'm going to take care of their family. I'm going to care about their family. Some people draw the box a little wider and say, I'm going to care about my neighbors and people on my block. And some people draw it wider than that and say, I care about people in my state, and others, it's the world.
Yep. So again, this event that they're doing on the 21st is amazing because it actually brought citizens together. It's actually Citizens United against Citizens United. All the groups: Our Revolution, MoveOn.org, Democracy for America, American Promise, Move to Event, Wolfpack, Public Citizen. The list goes on and on. So it's just all the good folks fighting against money in politics together on this important issue. So thank you, Ben Cohen, for organizing that.
That's right. And when your grandkids ask you, where were you during the great Stampathon Marathon of 2018? You don't want to say, oh, I was out, sitting on my butt. You want to say, yeah, I was stamping bills. I was part of that protest. And that's what helped turn the tide to finally overturn this absurd Supreme Court.
Absolutely. We all got to get in the fight. Because the people of power aren't going to do it for us. We got to do it. So everybody check out stampstampede.org for more details. And you'll get to see some of it on facebook.com/The Young Turks. Ben Cohen, thank you so much for joining us.
Good talking with you. Great being with the rebels.
All right, excellent. Okay, guys, when we come back, a socialist that had no chance of winning according to the establishment, but she did. In a major city, a person clearly to the left of me came in with some radical ideas, won, and then got those ideas instituted in her city. So come back and find out who it is. Back on Rebel Headquarters. We've got a great guest for you guys now, Kshama Sawant. She's a socialist. And now when they say that about Bernie Sanders, it's partly hype and fear-mongering, et cetera. And in the case of Sawant, no, she's really a socialist. She really is. And she was, of course, not expected to win when she first started running in 2012. And here she is in representing Seattle Council District 3, I believe. Welcome to Rebel Headquarters. Great to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, so there's a lot to talk about, but first I want people to have your background because your whole story is really interesting. So when you first started running for office, what were the different things that you campaigned on?
Well, as you mentioned, Cenk, we ran openly as a socialist, and I'm a member of Socialist Alternative, which is a nationwide organization. I'm sorry, can we eliminate the echo? I'm not able to focus on what I'm saying. There's an echo of my own voice.
Yeah, we're having, I don't know, we're having some slight technical issues today. That's why we started the show late.
Okay.
Is that going any better now?
Okay, no, I can hear my own voice, but I'll try my best. So as I was saying, I'm a member of Socialist Alternative, which is a nationwide organization of social and economic justice activists. And when we ran the campaign, in 2012, we ran against the State House, and we raised the question of $15 an hour tax, which, as you know, Washington State has the most regressive tax system in the entire nation. But I think beyond all that, what we did was we tested the question of running as a socialist. I mean, a lot of the Democratic Party operatives told me, don't say you're a socialist, that's not going to work. What we found was the opposite. People especially, but people in general, are so angry at the status quo. They want to know about what is an alternative system we can have. And also, we raised the question of corporate politics. So I ran as an unabashed working class candidate. I said I was not going to take a penny of corporate cash. And then when we ran for city council the next year, the election we did win, I said that if I was elected, I would take only the average worker's salary and donate my six-figure salary to social justice movement. And primarily, we campaigned on $15 for Seattle, which, as you know, we won less than 6 months later.
So I think your story is a microcosm of what's going to happen in the country, and I think it's absolutely fascinating because back when you ran without corporate cash, you're like, oh, you're crazy, man. Everybody needs corporate cash, and now it turns out, yeah, I've maintained this for a long time, and it was great to see you actually carry it out. That no, if you tell people you're uncorrupted and you actually are, they trust you more. Of course. They got so hooked on the corporate cash, they don't realize the obvious things. And people hate corruption. And it's obvious whether they agree or disagree with you that you are uncorrupted. And then you said $15 minimum wage. They're like, oh, you're nuts. That's way too much. And right now, what's the minimum wage in Seattle?
For big businesses that do not offer healthcare, they've already gone to 15. And it actually is $15.45 if you don't offer healthcare. But for all big businesses, they are at least at 15, and small businesses will be phased in soon.
And
as you can tell, there's no apocalypse happening.
It's not like Microsoft's like, that's it, we're out of 5,000, we're out of here. So it was a lot of fear mongering. It wasn't true, and now even Walmart has pushed their minimum wage to $11, and it would have never happened unless brave fighters like yourself had said $15 in the first place when everybody, including a lot of corporate Democrats like Obama, were saying, oh, no, let's go for 9. People don't remember that. Back then he was saying, let's go for 9. Now Walmart's at 11, Seattle's at 15, LA's at 15. Because if you actually dare to fight for people's wages, they like you for it. It's not that complicated. So now, on the other hand, you are to the left of me. So, man, you mean it, man. You taking a big portion of your salary and giving it away for social justice movements. Bless your heart. That's literally putting your money where your mouth is. And then now you're for rent control. I'm not sure I agree with that one. So walk me through why you think rent control will work in Seattle.
Yeah, I think that's a very important question, and I'm not surprised that people have questions about it because there has been so much vicious fear mongering about rent control for decades, not just now, but it has been systematic across the nation. And honestly, and to quote another economist who I don't think is a socialist, most economists are peddling myths about rent control that they don't even know are incorrect and not supported by statistics. So just to talk about what it means in general, what does rent control mean? It means a corrective policy, a regulation to address when you have a metropolitan area that has a skyrocket rents, runaway rents like you have in Seattle, where to rent a studio now it's $1,600, $2,000, depending on which studio you're in. And so what rent control policy in general says, is that landlords can still make money off it. You can still make sure you have some money in your pocket. At the end of the month, you do have money left for operations and maintenance, but the rent increase will be limited to such a rate that tenants are not pushed out. Right in Seattle, you're having just a spate of economic evictions, meaning nobody's actually giving you an eviction notice, but you're having to leave your unit because you can't afford increases anymore. So that's what we're talking about. And as far as fear mongering is concerned, one of the ways in which they've effectively done that is by the rent control policies that did pass in the past. They got major loopholes, very bad loopholes put in because the real estate lobby fought to nail against rent control policy. So one of the key loopholes they've put, which we should have, is what is called vacancy decontrol, meaning if the unit, if the unit's tenant leaves, then the unit starts to market rent. It is like fighting the demise of rent control in itself. So it really comes down to the details. And if you can write the rent control policy well, it will succeed. But ultimately, Jen, it really comes down to social movements. We change the balance of forces in such a way that we prevail and the state lobby and the Wall Street speculators don't.
Right. So you know what? We got to have you back on because I'd like to devote a whole interview to that because I think that's a really interesting topic, and we're having some tech issues here, and I'd love to talk to you about how you want to have the city take over the internet in Seattle. That's a really interesting idea, and boy, that one I definitely support, and I think that it's got a lot of potential across the country. But one last thing here. I know you want to talk about someone from Seattle that you're concerned ICE is going to deport. Can you tell us about that real quick?
Yes, this is a very well-known and dedicated and courageous activist called Maru Mora, who's really, as I said, dedicated life to issues faced by immigrants. She courageously, in the 1990s, came out herself as an undocumented immigrant. And since then, she has worked hard. She has actually worked hard to highlight the conditions of the people who are detained at the Northwest Detention Center, Tacoma, which is a neighboring city. And now she's received a deportation notice. And she's the only one in terms of being a high-profile activist who received a deportation notice. I believe this has happened to a few other activists on the East Coast. And it is clearly sort of a retaliatory move. And so we need to really mobilize in solidarity with her, because not only is this about her, but it is about the chilling effect it will have if we let this kind of deportation happen. We have to say no to all deportations. This is especially important when activists are being targeted for their political courage. And so it's really critical that we all come together and make sure we build mass resistance against these deportations.
All right, well, if you want to find out more, go to seattle.gov/council/savant. To find out more about these issues, and obviously you're living proof that activism does work. So thank you so much for joining us at Rebel Headquarters. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, guys, that's the show we got for you guys today. If you want to suggest great guests like this, and we got this suggestion from you guys, email us at rebelhq@tytnetwork.com. All right, post game's coming up next, and then you got Aggressive Progressive. If you're not a member, this would be a great time to join. tytnetwork.com/join.